takes Ritter to the end zone, looking for Pierce. Did he hang on? Yes. Touchdown. Beat back as I've been around. Here he goes again. Busts free. Jerome Ford down the sideline. Foot race. House call. Touchdown. 79 yards. Big one in the Peach Bowl. This is a big one too. And it's going to go all the way to the house on the first play from scrimmage.
Bearcat Blitz game week time on the Believe Network. We are presented by FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook, where you can bet on the Bearcats this week and also celebrate it with a no sweat bet. Celebrate the return of college football officially in week 1 for a no sweat bet and a tailor fade 50% profit boost on the game we're going to be talking about throughout this week. And we've been talking about it all offseason, essentially. The Cincinnati Bearcats taking on the Nebraska Cornhuskers alongside the Bustin' with the Boys podcast. You can tail or fade them. Do you like Nebraska? Are you a fan of the Nebraska Cornhuskers, a la alumnus from Bustin' with the Boys, Will Compton? Or are you rolling with the New Heights crew, Travis and Jason Kelsey, and picking the Bearcats? You can tail or fade the Bustin' with the Boys crew with that tailor fade 50% profit boost token only on FanDuel Sportsbook, where the Cincinnati Bearcats are currently 6.5-point underdogs to Nebraska entering this game. We'll discuss that at the top of the show and more great UC athletics action, including Alec Pierce returning to Clifton this past weekend and a non-quarterback X factor for the season. Who outside of Brendan Sorsby is an X factor for this team entering the 2025 campaign? All that coming up on Bearcat Blitz. I'm your host, Russ Eltman. We'll bring in Neil Meyer after these messages right here on the Believe Network. We're presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Back at it here on the Bearcat Blitz podcast. And we are getting into the game action, Neil. It is here. Cincinnati taking on Nebraska at Arrowhead Stadium on Thursday. 9 p.m. Eastern kickoff. We have a 6.5-point betting spread in favor of the Nebraska Cornhuskers across most major sports books. I saw Bill Connolly's S&P Plus metric has Cincinnati as a 8-point loser of this game. 28-20 win for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Neil, it feels like basically everybody, computer-wise and betting-wise, is heavily on Nebraska this week.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see, right? I mean, you saw what college football and especially within the Big 12 kind of looks like over the weekend, right? We saw how low of a scoring Iowa State versus Kansas State was. That was a great game as well, but I think teams are kind of underestimating Cincinnati here. I know the the over-under on this game, I believe it's 53 now, 53 and a half. So overall, sounds like a lot of people are taking the under in the points here, but like you mentioned there, Russ, 28-20 is what a lot of people are expecting this game to be, but for me, I'm expecting it to be closer, and I'm expecting some points to be scored. So I think it's a game everybody's talked about all off season, but this is the game that could kind of make or break Cincinnati, right? This is a game where if they go out there to a neutral site and take care of business versus Nebraska, it should solidify them into great position heading into year 3 of the Big 12. So it's going to be a great challenge for Scott Satterfield and the team heading into Nebraska on Thursday. And as we've been through fall camp, it's been a pretty healthy fall camp as well. So nothing kind of to report on the injury front. Cincinnati is expected to be fully healthy into this matchup, which should shock a lot of people because now teams are finally getting ready to see what that defense could really do now that everyone's healthy. So I'm excited, man. Football season's here. It's game week. We'll be in Kansas City this week. I'm excited. What can you not like about that first week of college football, especially having a primetime TV slot on Thursday night?
Cannot wait, Neil. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we shall see what happens with the Cincinnati Bearcats. I'm with you. I mean, I predicted 28-27 is what I'm going to finalize as my final score prediction. I haven't done my full preview deep dive just yet. We'll get that posted on Cincinnati Bearcats on SI over the next couple of days. It's going to be weird, Neil, because it's a Thursday game. So we're going to have the show releasing on Thursday proper. So we'll do kind of a mini preview then. Not going to take up the whole show because a lot of people will have already been taking in the game by the time they get to our podcast. But I think it stays close. I'm leaning 28-27. And I think the fact that Cincinnati is going to be bringing to the table a little bit of a different look defensive front wise, I think could give Nebraska some problems based on what they've been facing all camp long in terms of what Matt Rule described as more of a kind of finesse speed front as opposed to Cincinnati's big fellas in there. I mean, big dudes, Neil. We know that for a fact. I mean, Marquez Parker, Michael Coleman, Rob Jackson, Jalen Hunt, Dante Corleone. Those are some big dudes in there, bigger than you normally would see at their respective positions along that defensive front, and it could offer up some maybe early issues for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. People may be a little reticent to bet the money line straight up for Cincinnati, but maybe those early adjustments could have Cincinnati leading at the half, and it's still a juicy plus number on that side of things as well in the FanDuel Sportsbook.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people are going to kind of see it on Thursday of what this defense line looks like. I mean, Jalen Hunt was a huge loss last season. Same with Michael Coleman. Those are two big run stoppers there. Now, when Cincinnati lines up on defense on Thursday night, you're going to see how big of a presence those two probably were that they were missing last season. I know we'll get the official two deep here probably within any minute of this week of this showing. So overall, we should have the two deep officially today, outside of what we have that we've taken notes on throughout fall camp. But man, Russ, it's a great opportunity, and like you mentioned, this could be a game where might be scared to take that money line aspect for Cincinnati, considering it's a neutral site game, 3 hours away from Nebraska, kind of essentially a home game for the Cornhuskers, but Cincinnati and Brendan Sorsby and this team, we've heard it all offseason. They're ready to prove a lot of people wrong. So right now, I'm pretty juiced up. If you ask me, I'm pretty excited to get out to Kansas City. I'm pretty excited to see what year 3 under Scott Satterfield looks like. But I will say, I think this game's going to be a lot closer than what people are expecting. And what did the Big 12 do last season, Russ? I mean, they led the country in fourth quarter comebacks, fourth quarter last minute scores. It was a gauntlet last season, and we saw it on display over the weekend in week 0 in Dublin. And I'm expecting this one to come down to the end on Thursday night at Arrowhead Stadium.
A guy who has been with Cincinnati a long, long time was back this past weekend. Alec Pierce. Cool, Neil, to see him back, checking out the Shakely Indoor Practice Facility and Performance Center. Obviously, his team was in town to take on the Bengals for the final preseason action of the 2025 slate. No action, obviously, for Alec Pierce because he's an entrenched starter. And Neil, I mean, pretty much firmly by this point has a case as the best wide receiver this century to come out of Cincinnati. And he might be the best wide receiver NFL production wise to ever come out of Cincinnati. It's very, very, very plausible to make that case at this point in his career.
It most certainly is. And you put him up there into conversations with guys like Chris Moore. Yeah. But obviously, Alec Pierce, it was great to see him back.
He's done light years more than what Chris Moore has done in the NFL.
Yeah, it was great to see him come back too. I mean, I don't know if you don't have Instagram, Russ. So when he was posting all weekend, he was like taking the behind the scenes look, and he was like blown away to see him on the wall in the receivers room, and just kind of blown away by what the brand new IPF looks like. And I mean, without guys like Alec Pierce, Desmond Ridder, Brian Cook, Kobe Bryant, Sauce Gardner, those guys from that team, it kind of wouldn't have been possible to kind of have that new practice facility after that run that those guys made to get to the college football playoff and whatnot. So it was cool to see Alec Pierce back in Cincinnati. I know he gave everything he could have had. And if people don't remember his journey at Cincinnati, I mean, he graduated in 3.5 years with a mechanical engineering degree and had a co-op as well. So technically he did 5 years of school in 3.5 years while playing football at a superior elite level. That's not easy to do. So it's no surprise to see Alec Pierce thriving in the NFL. But man, it was cool to see them all back at Cincinnati. And Alec Pierce came back. Brian Cook was back a few weeks ago. I'm sure Dez has been able to check out the practice facility. It's cool to see these guys kind of be able to have that opportunity to come back home and kind of see their hard work pay off and check out the new practice facility.
Yeah, Neil, he's it's pretty safe to say Alec Pierce is the best wide receiver to ever play an NFL snap in coming from Cincinnati to the NFL. 1,931 career yards, 17.6 yards per reception. No player in Cincinnati history has ever led the NFL in yards per catch, which is what Alec Pierce did last season. If he gets some decent quarterback play, a big if this
He
coming
just needs
season
decent quarterback play. He
with
just needs
Daniel Jones or
just needs
Anthony
a
Richardson.
average season with Daniel Jones, and he'll be cooking.
I will people know me as a betting man. I will not be betting on Daniel Jones to be having an average season. So unfortunately, the quarterback issues will be probably continuing for Alec Pierce, but nothing that he can control right there. He can only catch the passes that are thrown his way. He cannot throw them to himself. And we will wish him all the luck this coming season. Maybe he can lead the NFL in yards per catch once again. That would be pretty cool. Alec Pierce, definitive deep threat and entrenched NFL player, a really, really fun talent and back in town this past weekend. Let's take a quick break and then close out the show with a non-quarterback X factor this season for the Cincinnati Bearcats. Can't pick Brendan Sorsby. Who will we land on? You're about to find out in just a few moments. But first, got to tell you once again about FanDuel Sportsbook, where we're going to hammer it home 2 times on the shows this week. Tailor fade option. You can boost the odds for the Cincinnati Bearcats to beat the Nebraska Cornhuskers, tail or fade. And you can pick Cincinnati to win on the money line or Nebraska to win on the money line and get a 50% profit boost, which as of right now would boost you all the way up to almost 4-1 odds on the money line for Cincinnati to take out Nebraska. All thanks to the Bussin' with the Boys profit boost tailor fade option on FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook, and a great place to place your wager on the Cincinnati Bearcats versus Nebraska Cornhusker game. You were going to bet them on the money line, you get a 50% boost by making FanDuel Sportsbook your outlet of choice for those wagers. Taking a quick break and then getting to the non-quarterback X Factor on the opening show of this week's Bearcat Blitzes across the Believe Network, represented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Final few minutes of discussion here on the Believe Network's Bearcat Blitz. We are presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. I'm your host, Russ Eltman of Cincinnati Bearcats on SI, and he's my co-host, Neil Meyer of the Front Office News.com. Neil, I'll leave the floor to you. Non-quarterback X factor that you are eyeing as the most impactful player towards Cincinnati's hopes of not only getting to a bowl this coming season, but being in the mix in those final 2 weeks of contending for a spot in the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah, most certainly. You and I were talking before the show. You were going to stick on the offensive side of the ball, so I figured I would go with the defensive side of the ball for this one.
There you go.
And for me, it's got to be Dante Corleone. Right now that final season of college eligibility, there is nobody on this team that wants to win more for Cincinnati than Dante Corleone. Right? This is a guy who persevered through the health scare last season. He has stuck around. He has gave his blood, sweat, and tears to this program. And now with a full healthy offseason and guys like Jalen Hunt, Michael Coleman returning around him, he's got another year with Tyson Veit, Coach Stewart there on the defensive side of the ball. I am fired up to watch Dante Corleone run around and make some plays. And I think he is going to be the X factor for Cincinnati. And the reason I say that being is last season, Dante Corleone was getting doubled and triple teamed. This year,
right, they had nothing. They had nothing out there. I mean, it was Jared Bartlett was their best pass rusher. He was a linebacker.
And last year, obviously with the injuries, teams were able to sit and kind of double and triple team. But now that you have a freak athlete and Micah Coleman on the edge, 6'5", back fully healthy, with great speed, great twitch, great versatility, can do so many different things. And then you have Jalen Hunt there as well. Teams are not going to be able to double and triple team Dante Corleone every play. Because people forget, like we mentioned earlier, Jalen Hunt is a big, strong dude in the middle of that defense. And people forget, like, his presence was missed last season. He is a true run stopper. That is going to free up Dante Corleone. So, in order for Dante Corleone to be that impact player, he's going to rely on those two guys to stay healthy as well. But I think if Cincinnati's defensive front, spearheaded by Corleone, can stay healthy, I think this defense behind them makes plays. The linebacker room we've talked about, the deepest unit on this team, potentially. I liked what I saw from the secondary so far throughout fall camp. But if Cincinnati can just get some pressure to the quarterback, I truly believe, Russ, they will have more than 5 interceptions or 4 interceptions like they had a season ago. This team's going to come away with some takeaways. But it's going to all start with the Godfather up front and guys like Jalen Hunt and Michael Coleman to the side. If those two guys are able to do their job correctly, Dante Corleone should be able to have one of those 2022, 2023 All-American-esque seasons per se. And if he is able to do that and play at a high level, Cincinnati's defense could take that next step to maybe even put them in position to be competing for a Big 12 championship in December down in Dallas.
Dante Corleone, solid sound pick from Neil. And as you mentioned, Jalen Hunt coming back to the fold, Micah Coleman coming back to the fold, 6'2", 315 pounds out of Hunt, that veteran presence. It's going to be massive. And he talked about that with us last week, Neil, after practice one day. Dante did. Just the fact that not only he's healthy, but he's so excited about how healthy the entire room is. Because he mentioned, like at points last year, it was just him and Kamari Burns. That was it. Especially in the second half
And
of
that was
Texas
with
Tech.
Dante not even fully healthy either.
Right. This was, he mentioned Texas Tech. That was what, a week after he came back from being fully cleared and his first game fully back against Pittsburgh. And it was just snap after snap after snap. And he mentioned how he just felt like he wasn't as impactful as maybe as he could have been on 15, 20 less snaps in that game than he normally would have if they would have had some stronger depth along that defensive front like they were expecting entering the season. So good option there. And Neil, it kind of harkens the same kind of theme I'm rolling with for my X Factor of Joe Royer and his impact on this offense. If Joe Royer can reach Mackey Award levels of tight end talent this fall, which I think is very much on the table. He's a guy that I would maybe look at if I don't know if they have odds on FanDuel Sportsbook for the individual player awards, but wherever you can find those odds, Joe Royer might be worth a look at a certain number, maybe 70, 80, 90 to 1, because Neil, he's in the best shape he's ever been in. He's as comfortable as he's ever been in, as what people can see that from my conversation with him on Cincinnati Bearcats on SI. Go check that out. And just, I think the fact that Joe Royer has already established this connection with Brendan Thorsby, it has a chance to really open things up for everybody else. I asked him how the receivers last week can open things up for him with this added speed, this added level of baseline talent from that room. But I think if Joe Royer comes out of the gate and is an immediate mismatch problem, Neil, for Nebraska's defense, is an immediate mismatch problem, is getting 75, 85 yards per game on 10, 11, 12 targets and really being matchup proof because of the added options in the wide receiver room, it's just going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy, rolling that snowball down the hill into an avalanche of good things for the Cincinnati passing attack, because you're going to have Joe Royer taking advantage of soft spots in the defense, maybe even more so, because teams are going to be like, all right, we got to commit some more resources to Joe Royer this week. The next week, it opens up things for the wide receiver room. And then you look at the game plan options for the following week, and the defensive coordinator's going, all right, if we commit more resources to Jeff Caldwell, who's leveling up, if we commit more resources to Cyrus Allen, to Noah Jennings, well, then we know that it's going to leave more space open for Joe Royer, who is playing the best football of his entire career, and we can't leave that open. So you leave these teams with really tough decisions to make matchup-wise, decisions, Neil, that they didn't have to make at all last season. So I think the fact that Joe Royer and his ability to be one of the top 3, if not the best tight end in the conference, it can not only open things up for the wide receiver room, but open things up for himself, because if he's really good, then the wide receiver room has an even better opportunity to explode and hit their ceiling. And if that wide receiver room is executing, then it's just going to make things easier for Joe Royer on the back end. That kind of cycle, that kind of merry-go-round, that kind of rolling momentum towards higher and higher heights for this passing attack was not there last year, Neil, because it was really just Joe Royer, and that's about it. And a Joe Royer at that who was admittedly from himself not as athletically explosive as he is coming into this season, in the best shape of his life, with the most reps he's ever had with any one quarterback, with the most reps he's ever had in any one offense. The arrow is pointing up for Joe Royer, and if he hits his ceiling this fall, Neil, I think in a similar fashion to the way that Dante Corleone's ceiling can help unlock things for the entire defensive line, Joe Royer's ceiling can help unlock things for the entire passing attack, and a more explosive passing attack at that, I think, is the big factor we're all watching out for when it comes to Joe Royer's impact and whether or not he can turn some of those 10, 15-yard plays into more 20, 25, 30-yard plays. Same with the rest of the Bearcats passing attack in general, looking for more kind of get it and go plays, Jerry Rice-esque slants, take it to the house more often, as opposed to having to mine those big deep ball passes with long passes down the field, as people would probably imagine I was about to say. Neil, that about does it for our show this week. Joe Royer, Dante Corleone, the top X factors, and kind of the top three build players. Your quarterback, Brendan Sorsby, your top defensive player, and Dante Corleone, and I would say the second best, if not the best overall offensive player coming back this season, and that would be Joe Royer at the tight end position. For Neil Meyer, I'm Russ Heltman. This has been Bearcat Blitz. We'll be back with the Thursday show ahead of action against Nebraska right here on the Believe Network. Have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy the beautiful weather in the tri-state area.
6, Ritter to the end zone, looking for Pierce. Did he hang on? Yes. Touchdown. Back as I've been around. Here he goes again. Busts free. Jerome Ford down the sideline. Foot race. House call. Touchdown. 79 yards. Big run in the Peach Bowl. This is a big one, too.